my name's Sophia and I'm here with Grow Some Good. And today we're going to talk about the plant life cycle and the importance of plants and how when you give to plants, they give back to you. So right here, we have an awesome plant. I actually had some for breakfast this morning. This right here is a tomato plant. And this tomato plant is in a larger stage of maturity. So as we can see, we have some fruit. We have some other fruits that aren't quite ready. So this is more of a mature adult plant. But we're not going to start there. We're going to take it back a little bit farther, and we're actually going to start at the very, very bottom of the plant. So right below the soil here, where we cannot see, are something called the roots. And roots are very, very important part of the plant because they are how water and nutrients are absorbed and distributed through the rest of the plant. They also make sure that the plant doesn't just blow over. Picture if a plant didn't have roots and a wind gust came, or you could even blow on it and it would just fall over. So these roots work as the anchor. They also are kind of like straws sucking up those nutrients and all of that water. The next part of the plant, if we're heading upwards, is the stem. And the stem, I kind of like to picture it as a two-lane highway. So what it's doing is it's taking those nutrients and all of that water that was absorbed from the roots, and it's distributing it to all the different parts of the plant. It's what makes sure that these leaves stay nice and green, that these tomatoes end up full of nutrients, which then we can consume to stay nice and healthy. And it also helps the plant stay up nice and tall, and it holds this heavy weight. These are really big tomatoes, and that's a lot of weight for them to hold. And if they didn't have a stem, we would have lots of fruits just laying on the ground. The next part of the plant that we're going to talk about right here are the leaves. And leaves are really, really fascinating part of the plant, okay? Do you all know what a solar panel is? Maybe some of you do, maybe some of you don't. But what solar panels do is that they're taking energy, or they're taking the sunlight and they're converting it into energy. And that's exactly what leaves do here. So leaves actually do something called photosynthesis, which is when they capture that energy from the sun and they turn it into energy and fuel and sugars for the plant to survive. So let's think about this. If we had a big tarp covering this plant, do you think that they would be able to survive? No, it wouldn't, because the leaves wouldn't be able to get the energy from the sun and be able to photosynthesize. Plants being able to get sunlight and the leaves being able to get sun is so, so, so important. So that brings us to our next part of the plant here. And these have gotten a little bit older, but as you can see, this is what we call a flower. And usually you would have a little tiny piece. It looks like the petals fell off, but this was pretty recently a flower. And flowers are really, really important because they attract pollinators. Plants purposefully grow a part of themselves that smell really delicious and that contain nectar and lots of pollen, and to attract pollinators. So once a flower becomes pollinated, then it turns into our next part of the plant, which is right here. Well, we can start a little bit smaller. The fruit. So here we have our fruit. So at one point you see these little things on the top. That was all part of the flower. So this was once a flower, and as it matures and gets more of those nutrients that are coming down from the roots up through the stem, the energy coming in from the leaves, this tomato slowly grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And it even changes colors when it's ready, just begging to be eaten. Why would a plant grow a part of itself that wanted to be eaten? I'll give you a hint. It's about what's inside. Seeds. Tomatoes are full of seeds, and so are all these different fruits that we find on a magnitude of plants. So once a fruit is eaten, right? Like if we take a nice bite, either or an animal, they might use the restroom and drop the seeds somewhere else, and that's how the plant can grow. Or maybe part of this would end up in the compost, and then it could grow somewhere else. Or in this case, what we're going to do today is we're going to take some seeds that were collected from another tomato, and we're gonna plant them so we can start this life cycle all over again. So first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna take your container, whatever you're planting into, and you're gonna fill it with soil. So once it's filled with soil, the next step is poking a hole. So I like to poke a hole to about my first knuckle. So we have a nice hole here. And what I'm going to do is take a seed or two. Sometimes I like to put two because not all seeds will sprout. So I have a few seeds here. And next, I'm going to place them into my hole. Awesome. Next thing I'm going to do is cover up my seed. Pat it, make sure it's nice and protected. And then what do you think that we do next? We give it water. So I have my watering can here full of water. The next thing I'm going to do is just give it some nice water. Not too much. And then I'm gonna leave it in a sunny spot. And it might take a few days to a week, sometimes even a few weeks for your seed to sprout. So now it's about being patient. And in a little while, it's gonna sprout. And you're gonna have this young little Kacie tomato like this right here. So as this tomato Kacie starts to get bigger, what I'm gonna end up doing is actually transplanting it in the garden. I'm gonna move it to a space where it has more room to grow. And by doing that, I'm giving it a chance to be able to grow big into its fullest potential. So by providing for this plant and by giving it love and water and attention every day, eventually it will end up producing fruit. So the love that I'm putting into this plant ends up coming back to me, which is really, really beautiful. Plants and humans work very, very well together.